Hi, One Best PR Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. It's week 8 in the NFL, and we have Doug Upstone on the line. We're going to get his value picks, and it's a very popular regular segment that we do. Doug Upstone, how'd you do last week?
Peter, not so hot last week. In both cases, it went 1 and 2. Had some bad luck with turnovers, which really was the deciding factor in a couple of the games. So, hey, those things happen. We trudge ahead, and especially, man, I want to turn these value picks around and get on a roll here.
Okay, well, you've definitely done that like each of the past 2 or 3 years that we've been doing this. The end of the season, from the middle to the end of the season for you tends to be your strongest, just in my experience, your strongest period in the NFL. Doug Upstone, what do you have for us? Value pick number 1 in NFL Week 8.
My first value pick, Peter, is with the Minnesota Vikings in the Windy City. And, this week at the press conference for Mike Zimmer, their coach, it was brought up to him that his team has lost 7 consecutive times against the Chicago Bears. And as it turns out, from a spread standpoint, they have the same record. They're 0-7 against the spread. But, this Mike Zimmer, he's a pretty clever fellow, I think, and a really good coach. And he has a real good line on his team. He likes to work with them in terms of being very sarcastic. He's very good at doing perceived slights and also finding negative numbers that help motivate his team, which really gets his players going. And when I look at also how they're doing their on-field adjustments during games, I also like some of the things that they've been doing, utilizing, if teams try to take away Adrian Peterson, they go to the play action pass more. So doing a lot of nice things. Now, with this game went from minus 2.5 for Minnesota down to a pick. And when I look at this, I think that's a lot of value because we got the two teams that are offensively pretty similar, but Minnesota is second in points allowed and Chicago is 31st. All Minnesota Peter has to do is win the game. I like him to do it.
All right, I hear you, man. This game has me confused. I do know that the Sharp Action has bet big against Minnesota over each of the past 2 weeks and lost with that 2 weeks ago. I loved Minnesota over KC. They wound up cashing. Last week, I stayed off it. This week, who knows? The line has gone down, so I'm guessing that Sharp Action. I previewed this game with Al McMorty from BigAl.com. He likes the Bears here. The Bears have covered 3 in a row. They get Alshon Jeffrey back. So this one, I don't really know. Could easily see your point of view there. And, of course, Minnesota's covered 5 in a row. In general, a very good program. So I certainly wouldn't argue against you. What's value pick number 2 for NFL Week 8, Doug?
I think the New Orleans Saints are going to be heavily this week against the New York Giants. Now, New Orleans started 0-3, but they really have come back since, winning 3 out of 4, Peter, and they've covered 4 out of their last 5. Now, the New York Giants, though, conversely, are going backwards statistically, if not record-wise just yet. Now, the run defense after 4 weeks was number 1 in the NFL, but in the last 3 weeks, they've given up over 170 yards per game on the ground to the tune of 4.8 yards a carry. And opposing teams are having no problem wanting to run the ball because they've averaged 35 attempts in those games. Now, you look at their secondary for the New York Giants. I honestly don't know how they're hanging on because they're playing a ton of backups. They're just kind of surviving. Steve Spagnuolo, their defensive coordinator, deserves a lot of credit. But I just don't think this team is just going to hang on forever, especially a team with a passing attack like New Orleans. Then finally, we look at Eli Manning, who, after a good start, if you take away the brilliant performance he had against the San Francisco Giants' 31st pass defense, he's only thrown for 178 yards the rest of the month. So when I look at this, I don't have a problem giving the 3 points with Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints against a New York club that is 3-11 against the spread after allowing 6 or more yards per play in their previous game. I got the Saints by 10.
Yep. Doug Upstone, that's the way I'm leaning as well. The Giants' final score from their last game was definitely a little bit misleading. They were the beneficiary of numerous turnovers in the second half that really helped them out. I'm agreeing with you on that one. What's your third value pick for NFL Week 8 for us, Doug?
My third value pick, Peter, is that Baltimore covers against San Diego this week. Now, an old betting axiom, Peter, is to take the points when bad teams play. And when you look at this, you got 2 teams that aren't very good, and it's usually best, to take the points in this situation. Now, San Diego and Baltimore have combined to win 3 games and just cover 3 spreads. But in each case, they've been close in all those games. The Ravens have played 6 games in which they lost by 6 points or less, and San Diego, they have, of their games, 5 of them have been decided by a touchdown or less. Both teams have shown an inclination to not be able to finish either offensively or defensively. So what happens in this matchup of mediocre teams? I'm going to be willing to give the 3 points, okay, with a team that is less rested, who has made 4 trips to the Rocky Mountains or farther, okay? And here's why. It's real simple. San Diego is 4-12 against the spread against AFC teams the last 2 years, and Baltimore is 26-13-1 as a home favorite against non-division competition, Ravens by 8.
Makes sense to me, Doug Upstone. It's a tough travel spot for San Diego as well. An early start for them, I can certainly see that. Interesting picks this week. NFL Week 8, Doug Upstone. We'll see how this turns out. Thanks so much. Talk to you next week.
Thank you, Peter.